It's really about, when they approached me, what they said was, look, it's a standalone. It's not like, this isn't part of the extended universe.
They're not saying it's a trilogy either.
They're not saying that either.
Right.
They're saying this is
I'm
not.
saying that.
Yeah, you're saying that. I don't know how you knew that. But wait a minute.
Things out
yes,
sometimes.
Exactly.
What you just heard was director Matt Reeves speaking about how Warner Brothers approached him to make a Batman film set completely outside any cinematic universe. This basically proves that WB had always intended for Matt Reeves' 2022 film to be completely standalone from any connected universe, exactly how most other Batman films were like before the DCEU sprung into existence. However, what led WB to this decision? What could have possibly caused them to once again take Batman in a standalone direction? Well, before they had approached Matt Reeves to develop his film, writer, actor, and director Ben Affleck was developing his own standalone Batman film based off his portrayal from Batman v Superman. The film was meant to tie into Zack Snyder's multi-film plan and presumably further built upon Batman's history and mythology. However, the film was eventually shelved, killing any possibility of ever seeing Ben's Batman in his own film. But why exactly did the film get shelved? Did the studio really interfere with the project, or was it simply because Ben couldn't figure it out? What would the film have entailed, and would it have been any good? Join me today as I attempt to go over the history of Ben Affleck's abandoned Batman film. If you're new to the channel and enjoys this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like rating on the video. It's free, you help my channel get better, and you can unsubscribe anytime you want. Deal? Alrighty then, without further ado, let's begin the video with its history. On July 9th of 2015, Deadline reported that Ben Affleck had teamed up with famous comic writer Jeff Johns to co-write a standalone Batman film based off his portrayal from Batman v Superman. Affleck was set to star and direct the picture after he was finished adapting Dennis Lehane's 2012 novel, Live by Night, to the big screen, meaning that the Batman was slated for at least a 2019 or 2020 release window. Chris Terrio, known for writing films like Argo and Batman v Superman, would later turn in a script rewrite in January of 2017. On April 12th of 2016 at CinemaCon, it was officially confirmed by Walter Hamada that Ben Affleck would officially star, write, and direct a standalone Batman movie. Affleck had already won an Oscar for Best Picture with Argo and Best Original Screenplay for Good Will Hunting, so it was pretty clear that Ben Affleck was fully capable of writing and directing an extremely good film. It seemed like the Batman character and his mythos was in very good hands. Cut to August 29th of 2016, Ben Affleck officially revealed a camera test of Deathstroke on his Facebook page. Remember, at this point in time, nobody knew that Deathstroke was the main villain of his film, so this was Ben Affleck's way of teasing his involvement. Hell, we didn't even know that Joe Manganiello was playing the part. It's likely that Ben Affleck had a say in his casting, as Ben Affleck was one of the producers for Justice League 2017. Since Justice League directly tied into Ben Affleck's Batman film, he most likely wanted to lay the seeds that would later reappear in his movie. Signs of the film's trouble started to poke their heads later on, when Ben Affleck seemed annoyed every time someone asked him about the film's progress.
Oh my god, it's such a pain in the ass. It's like every time I mention Batman, it gets this huge, clickbait. When I was doing this movie, it took me 2 years to get it together, but nobody ever asked me where's Live by Night. They asked me, it's Batman, Batman, Batman.
That's the idea. The idea is that there's no movie, yet. There's not a movie, but there is the plan to make a Batman movie.
On January 30th of 2017, it was reported by Variety that Ben Affleck had officially stepped down as director of the Batman. However, he was apparently still committed to starring in the project. Performing this role demands focus, passion, and the very best performance I can give. It has become clear that I cannot do both jobs to the level they require. Together with the studio, I have decided to find a partner and a director who will collaborate with me on this massive film. I am still in this, and we are making it, but we are currently looking for a director. I remain extremely committed to this project and look forward to bringing this to life for fans around the world. This was most likely a lie. Matt Reeves, known for his amazing work on Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes, was supposedly brought on to direct the film in the wake of Ben Affleck stepping down. However, there's reasons to believe that Ben Affleck was already gone from the project at this stage in its development, and that Matt Reeves was starting completely from scratch. First off, Ben Affleck in an interview with USA Today stated that he was trying to find a graceful way to exit the project. You don't do it forever. so I want to find a graceful and cool way to seek out of it. Variety later stated in December of 2017 that it was extremely unlikely that Ben Affleck would reprise his role in Matt Reeves' upcoming film, which was then further backed up by Ben Affleck's brother Casey Affleck in an interview with WEEI.
He's not going to do that movie, I don't think.
Breaking news.
Say.
You've broken. You
Is
broke my heart.
is that breaking news? I was just kind of making that up.
I will take it. I heard it from Casey Affleck.
Now, based off what I said in the beginning of the video, I think that Matt Reeves' Batman was always meant to be completely standalone and disconnected from Ben's film. I don't believe that Matt Reeves was ever attached to Ben's project in the first place, which means that this tweet and any article speaking about Matt Reeves' involvement were completely a PR stunt, since Ben Affleck had already left the role at this point. I have no way to confirm this, so don't hang me if I'm wrong. Also, I find it interesting that Robert Pattinson became interested in playing Batman around the same time Ben Affleck was supposedly still playing the part.
I was working quite a lot, I mean this is probably like 2 years ago, and my agent was like, really?
Finally, on January 30th, 2019, Ben Affleck officially stepped down as Batman, stating that he had tried his best in the role but no longer had the motivation to stay in the part. Months later, rumors of a new actor taking on the role of the Caped Crusader would begin to swirl. Now that we have its history down, we can now speculate on the story. Now, according to longtime Batman news site Batman on Film, Ben Affleck's The Batman would have involved Ben Affleck's Batman being trapped within Arkham Asylum, most likely having to face all the criminals he had imprisoned there over the years. This was seemingly confirmed by the film's cinematographer, Robert Richardson, in an interview with Happy Sad Confused podcast.
So he was entering into a little more of the Arkham. It's like, he's going into where you keep everyone who's bad and everyone that's shifted and Batman. So that whole aspect was it was very fascinating.
Yeah.
It was to go to the darker side of Batman.
The premise of being trapped in Arkham Asylum has been done before in Rocksteady's Batman Arkham Asylum and the Grant Morrison comic Arkham Asylum, Serious House on Serious Earth. Both stories have Batman being trapped within Arkham Asylum, being forced to face several of his villains, with the latter being a creepy, disturbing, and psychological thriller that dives deep into Batman's psyche and inner demons. Ben's movie was supposedly not a direct adaptation of either of those stories, but supposedly may have taken influence. Joe Manganiello recently came out and gave us details about the film, stating that the film would have been about Deathstroke dismantling Bruce's life from the shadows. It was a really dark story in which Deathstroke was like a shark or horror movie villain that was dismantling Bruce's life from the inside out. It was this systematic thing. He killed everyone close to Bruce and destroyed his life to try and make him suffer because he felt like Bruce was responsible for something that happened to him. Now, Joe Manganiello has named two works as inspiration for Ben Affleck's Batman film: David Fincher's 1997 film, The Game, and Frank Miller's 1986 comic series, Daredevil, Born Again. Both The Game and Daredevil Born Again share a lot in common. For starters, they both share the same theme of rebirth and change. Both stories revolve around the protagonists having their lives turned upside down and systematically destroyed by a force greater than themselves. They lose their money, their relationships are destroyed, and their sanities are pushed to the very limit, all while constantly being hunted for their lives. After facing multiple trials and tribulations, the protagonists in the end undergo great change and rebirth, eventually coming out a better person than they were originally. Since the central theme of both works were change and rebirth, you can infer that most likely the main theme of Ben Affleck's Batman movie was the same. The film Batman v Superman had already established that this Batman had lost his way after 20 years of crime fighting. After the death of Robin and his allies turning their backs on him, he had finally had enough and went down a murderous and self-destructive path. In Ben Affleck's The Batman, I speculate that Deathstroke took on the role of CRS and the Kingpin. Using his skills as a mercenary and his several different connections, Deathstroke would topple Wayne Enterprises, destroy Bruce Wayne's public image, drain all his wealth, and essentially leave him with nothing to his name. And to top it all off, I believe that he would have destroyed Bruce Wayne's house and Batcave. He would essentially leave Bruce with only a very old version of his Batsuit and an extremely limited amount of gadgets. He would then lure Batman to Arkham Asylum by maybe kidnapping Alfred. He would then set loose all the inmates of Arkham, allowing a free-for-all to ensue. Broken and beaten, Deathstroke would then commit one final act to break the bat, killing Alfred in front of Bruce's eyes. Now I say this because Joe Manganiello has described his Deathstroke as Jaws-like and that he would kill everyone close to Bruce. At this point in time, the only person left that Bruce would truly love is his only remaining family, Alfred, so it makes narrative sense for Deathstroke to kill him. With very limited gear and a worn-down batsuit, Bruce would have little chance of beating Deathstroke in a fight. However, Batman would eventually turn the tides in his favor and would eventually win the battle. He would restrain himself from killing Deathstroke though, showing that Bruce had fully grown and underwent the ultimate rebirth, no longer the merciless killer he was before. Remember, Zack Snyder had planned to kill Batman in Justice League 3, and as far as we know, Ben only planned one Batman film and not a trilogy. So to me, he could have definitely gotten away with doing some crazy things in his film. Now publicly, Affleck has claimed that the reason the film didn't happen was because he couldn't crack the script.
You know, I tried to direct a version of it and worked with a really good screenwriter, but just kind of couldn't come up with a version that couldn't crack it. And so I thought it was like, you know, time to let someone else take a shot at it. They got some really good people, so.
Personally, I don't buy it. First off, we know how much of a talented writer Affleck was. He did win an Oscar for writing Good Will Hunting after all. Now you might bring up his film Live by Night, which was received poorly by critics and audiences, but I think there's a simple explanation for that. Personally, I think Affleck is at his best when he's writing with other people. He's truly a person who can create something magical if he has people to bounce ideas off of. With Live by Night, Affleck was the sole writer of the flick, which means he had nobody to bounce his bad ideas off of. For Batman, he had Geoff Johns co-writing, a renowned and famous comic writer known for his work on Batman Earth 1 and Green Lantern. If you ask me, he seemed like a pretty decent person to co-write with. I also don't buy the whole he couldn't crack it excuse because artist Jay Olivia has already stated that it was the greatest Batman script he's ever read. Now I have my own speculation for why Affleck left the project. Simply put, he was having a creative battle with both Geoff Johns and WB. Remember my previous plot speculation? Well, if it somehow turned out to be even remotely true, then I could see how Geoff Johns and WB would take issue with the script. The idea of Deathstroke killing everyone Batman loved probably didn't sit well with either of them. So likely what was going on is that Affleck constantly made slight changes to his script in order to appease both WB and Geoff Johns. I think this quote from Robert Richardson might corroborate my theory.
It was a script, but not a loved script.
Got it.
There was a lot of work that he was doing to it. He was trying to change it, and then he made the decision to do, as you know, Gone Girl and.
Right.
Eventually, his failing marriage, alcoholism, his experience on Justice League, experience trying to get his Batman script produced, and the failure of his passion project, Live by Night, all came together and ultimately made Affleck lose interest in the project, eventually stepping down, allowing another director to have their hand at directing a Batman film. Although we never got Ben Affleck's Batman film, his departure from the project did give another director an opportunity to create a new and interesting take on Batman. However, I still wonder how Ben Affleck's Batman script was like. Maybe one day this script will leak online, allowing us to take a look at what his film would have entailed, but as far as right now, we can only ponder on what Ben Affleck's Batman film would have been like.